If you haven't been to Dishoom yet, stop whatever you're doing, book a train or a flight to London, Birmingham, Edinburgh or Manchester and get in the queue. There'll always be a queue, by the way. This restaurant is Indian food on another level. They do it all from chaat masala and paneer tikka to bun maska and chai. But their signature dish, the black dal, is a cut above the rest. This is truly god tier. The dish is their version of Dal Makhani but without kidney beans. Creamy, rich and viscous. It's the perfect companion for a freshly baked chapati or naan bread. Best of all, it's so easy to make. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. So let's get started. Hi, I'm Adam. I'm a home cook on a journey to learn more about food and cooking, from history and the environmental impact to new recipes and ways to cook. And today we're going to make Dishoom's Black Dal. This recipe will make about 4 to 6 portions, and you can serve it either as it is or with rice or any sort of chapati or bread. So first, let's look at what we need. You'll need 300 grams of black dal or urid dal. It goes by a few different names, but you'll be able to find it at most Asian supermarkets. Then we've got a couple of bits of ginger and some garlic cloves. We've got 70 grams of tomato puree. Well, we call it tomato puree in the UK. This stuff's called tomato paste in the US. Basically any tomato stuff in a tube. We'll be using a couple of different spices. We've got 1/3 teaspoon of garam masala. Garam masala is a Hindi term and loosely translates to hot spice mix. And every garam masala is slightly different. In India, many households have their own blends. Dishoom have their own blend too, but I've just used some supermarket blend here. You can just use whatever you have because it's used in such a small quantity in this dish that it's not really going to make a substantial difference. We're also using 2/3 of a teaspoon of Deggi Mirch chili powder. Well, actually I'm using Kashmiri chili powder because that's all I had. It's milder, but it also worked because again, we're only using a small amount. Speaking of small amounts, we've got 2 teaspoons of vegetable oil. And finally, we've got our dairy. The dish is heavy on butter and cream. You could use less, but the dish will obviously be less creamy. Anyways, I've used 90 grams of butter, and the same goes for double cream. You'll need 90 grams of it. That being said, I was doing a little bit of an experiment on this recording, and I made 2 batches of the dal. I made one with 45 grams of double cream, and I made another with 45 grams of Greek yogurt. The double cream is delicious, but it's high in fat and calories. The yogurt does reduce the dish's calories and adds a little bit more protein. And to be honest, the yogurt version was just as nice, though it didn't quite look as appealing. You can use either depending on your nutritional requirements. So to start, let's peel this ginger and garlic. A useful tip, by the way, just keep a compost bowl on hand so you can keep all your vegetable scraps together instead of walking over to the bin every single time. Another tip, you do not need any fancy tools to peel ginger. You can literally just use a spoon. It's probably the best trick I've ever learned in the kitchen. So crush the garlic with the blade of your knife and toss the skins into your compost bin. We're going to blend the ginger and garlic up in a blender, by the way, so you don't need to get rid of the ends of the garlic. Once the skin's off both, just chop everything up. It doesn't need to be too fine, as the blender will do most of the work, but we'll mince it a little bit. Where's the blender, by the way? Ah, there it is. We're using a Ninja blender here. Throw in the ginger and garlic and add all of the vegetable oil. Give it a mix and then blend it. This blender isn't very good with small quantities of food, as you can see. It's all got stuck, so I added a little bit of extra oil and water. Don't worry about extra water, as the dish uses a lot of water anyways, so you can always simmer to reduce it later. Now that the garlic and ginger paste is ready, we're going to clean the dal. So grab a large bowl and put the dal in. Fill the bowl with water so the dal's completely submerged. We're then going to whisk it a few times for 10 seconds just to remove any debris. This is more useful if your dal is older, but there's no harm in doing it even if you've just bought it. Whisk for 10 seconds, strain the water, add more water, and then repeat that 3 to 4 times. Now that the dal's clean, we're ready to start cooking. We'll be using about 4 litres of water at most at any point during this whole process, so about a 6-litre pan would be ideal, I'd say. The pan I'm using here is way too big, but it's the most adequate size I had. Anyway, whatever. Throw the dal into a pan with 4 litres of water and bring to a boil over medium-high heat. Meanwhile, stand around in your pyjamas, looking busy. We want to keep the dal at a boil, but not too aggressively. So medium-high heat's ideal. Also, make sure you're using a spoon that makes sense. Tablespoon probably isn't the right tool for the job. As the dal boils, just skim off any imperfections that rise to the surface and toss them away. After a while, the water will start to turn black and the dal will soften. And make sure to stir it regularly, by the way. The dal will probably take about 2 to 3 hours to cook. You can tell when it's ready by squeezing it. It should be kind of creamy, not crumbly. While that's cooking, let's talk about the black dal. Like I said at the start, the black dal is Dishoom's version of Dal Makhani, a popular dish in South Asia that originated in the Punjab region. After partition in 1947, when the Indian subcontinent was split into India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, which was at the time West Pakistan, many people left behind their ancestral homes. Muslims moved from what was to become India and went to Pakistan to be with other Muslims, and Hindus left what was to become East or West Pakistan to move to India to be with other Hindus. The Punjab was one of many regions to experience an exodus on a grand scale, and when people left their ancestral homes, they naturally took their traditional recipes with them. One such popular traditional recipe in the region was a basic urid dal cooked in a clay pot and served with chapati. A few years after partition, a fella called Kundan Lal Gujaral, probably mispronounced that by the way, who at the time ran a restaurant chain called Moti Mahal, came up with an idea. He'd already gained a lot of fame for having invented the famous dish butter chicken as a means of preserving dry chicken. Well, his next dish was sure to gain him favour in the vegetarian community. He took that basic urad dal dish and added tomatoes and cream, and thus Dal Makhani was born. Whether it's true or not, well, who's to say, but when you think about it, what is Dal Makhani if not a vegetarian equivalent of butter chicken? It's just as creamy and tomatoey, right? Anyway, we're starting to run out of water, so back to the dal. You can add more water if you run out, by the way, so it doesn't stick to the bottom as it has for me here. If it does stick, don't worry. You can deglaze the bottom of the pan by adding boiling water and just scraping. Once the dal's cooked, turn off the heat and let it sit there for about 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, drain the dal through a fine mesh strainer. You don't need to dry off the dal completely, just get rid of most of the water. Throw the dal back into the pan and cover with 3 to 4 centimeters of water and bring it to a boil over medium-high heat. Meanwhile, while that's coming to a boil, we'll make our tomato paste. So grab a bowl or container and mix together your garlic and ginger paste that you made earlier, the tomato puree / paste, whatever you want to call it, chili powder, garam masala, and a few generous pinches of salt. Don't go overboard with the salt, by the way. You can always add more later. So give all that a good stir, taste it, and then realize that it tastes way too strong to be enjoyed at this point. Put it aside and regret your decisions in life. Anyway, back to the pan. Once that's at a boil, give it a good stir. As before, you want to stir regularly. Throw in the butter and the tomato paste mix that we've just made and cook at a boil for about 30 minutes. You can start to see that iconic orange tinge of the black dal coming through at this point, and it should be also smelling ridiculously good. You've got to keep an eye on it at this point though, because the water can disappear very, very fast. That's coming from experience. Anyway, after 30 minutes, turn the heat down to low and let it simmer for about an hour and a half. You don't need to do this part, but after an hour and a half, once my dal was cooked, I split it between 2 different pans. The pan was heavy as sin, by the way, and I made a right old mess, so ignore that. I added cream to the blue pan and yogurt to the silver one. You can see straight away the cream pan looks so much more appealing. I should have maybe mixed the yogurt with some water to stop it from coagulating, but oh well. Anyway, in your case, just add either yogurt or cream, depending on which one you're using, to the pan that you're already cooking the dal in. You don't need to add it to a new pan. Let it simmer for about 15 minutes and then it's ready. The dal is best served with chapati or rice, and you can eat it hot or cold. I find that it tastes even better after a day in the fridge. And there you have it. It takes time, requires a little bit of patience, but it's really not too difficult and certainly worth the effort. You can find the full recipe in the description of this video, or you can pick up Dishoom's cookbook. There's a link for that in the description as well. Let me know how you get on in the comments below. Meanwhile, here's the macros for those who are interested. Thank you so much for watching. I'm constantly cooking, experimenting and researching to learn more about food and cookery, and I share what I've learned every week. If you want to learn more about the food that you cook and better ways to cook it, please consider subscribing to the channel. See you in the next one.